It would help if I had the microphone on, but looks like we're good to go now. Gonna pop open this root beer. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have the Elega Corp website up for just a moment, but first, before I get into any of that, I just wanted to show you some of what I have going on here in the office because it's fantastic. First of all, I got my Elega Corp t-shirt in, and it looks so good, man. Teespring does such a great job with this merchandise, and so, of course, one of the things that I give out that you have to watch the stream to know is that there's a 15% off code, and so the promo code is KallKing, KallKing. And I got my root beer, which is, by the way, 0 sugar, 0 calories, because when you're sitting for hours and coding, why do you need the calories? Anyway, okay, let's get back to the Elega Corp website here. In case you are not aware, if this is your first time watching, of course, I always point this out. Bottom left there, you have the recent blog posts, which these are great articles to read. The most fantastic reading you'll ever do, of course. And on the bottom right is the Twitch live stream schedule. And as you can see, there is a stream happening today, right now, at 10 a.m. Normally, I will be streaming Sundays at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you have a time zone beyond those two, well, I'm just going to have you translate. But let me shut off Firefox, and I'm going to switch. Okay, so wait a second. So we need to talk about some of what we want to get done today. And so last stream, I left off working on this view. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out Firefox. I left off working on this view. Now this looks a lot different than it did last stream. As you can see, there's a background going on, kind of a little faded, what may be kind of maybe like a rocky landscape or like a hillscape, something of that nature. There's kind of a grassy hill going on there in the background, some faded transparent panels, and this view is used for matching up people with businesses. So what is this game? This is Kalling Kingdom, and this is a fantasy-based city simulator that is turn-based, which means that every turn you're trying to make decisions around how to manage your city. And the main goal of the game is you have a certain amount of cash, and you want to entice people from the rest of Kalling Kingdom to come into your town. And the town you're managing is called the town of Tren. That root beer is just magnificent. Okay, so you can see there at the top that you have a current turn that you're starting on, you have a certain amount of cash, and you have a number of people. Let me kick up the desktop audio just a tiny bit. Gosh, I forgot headphones again. Actually, I'm going to leave the desktop audio off. But let me show you this, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play. And I'm going to kill my speakers so that we don't get blasted with music over the microphone. And so you can see, so there's a current turn, and there's a certain amount of cash, and there's a certain number of people. And you can see that this is the same as last time, that the person information on the right shows that there's a person with a random number next to them, a status for whether this person is already in the town. And so this view is actually including everything. And this is really, I don't know what the word is to describe it, prototypey. There's no good term. I don't know. But it's work in progress stuff, right? But I guess the main idea is that what I've got here so far is really not meant to represent necessarily anything close to what we want to end up with in the end. And I just want to point out that even though I'm not sure how I feel about it, but you can just barely see, there in the background, there is a little cloud moving in over on the right, and over on the left, there's another little cloud. scrolling over. Now, these are terrible hand-drawn clouds, at least they might be. You know, and this goes back to developing the visual look for all of this. And that's what we're going to kind of start getting into here over the next few streams. We want to find some kind of a visual style that begins to really work for what this game is. This game is a lot of numbers. It's a lot of data, a lot of stats being thrown at the player, as is the case with many city simulators. And the player has a lot of decisions to make based on that data. Now, compared to a lot of other city sims, this one is actually incredibly simple. And it's meant to be kind of a relaxing game. It's meant to be scoped very small, and it's meant to be a project, of course, that we can get done relatively quickly. And so, do I want to keep these, kind of cartoony-looking, hand-drawn clouds that are moving around there in the background? I don't know. Maybe you could let me know in the chat how it looks. I don't know. We'll come back to it, and as I continue to stream here, we're going to have people kind of trickle in, but I just don't know how I feel about it right now. And having said that, let me also show you what I've been working on. Now, this is a rough draft, so I don't want you to take away this as the final thing, but this is an example of the logo that I'm tinkering around with. And we have to have some kind of additional visual element. Now, this is very simple, very clean, and special thanks to Jacob, aka Indie Jacob, for helping me with this. If you've been following me for a while, then you know him very well. He has his own YouTube channel that has a ton of subscribers. He does fantastic work. He does basically a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel. And I highly recommend you check it out. All you got to do is get onto YouTube and search Indie Jacob. You will find him. But he consulted a tiny bit on, giving me his opinion. And the first iteration that I brought to him, I knew was bad. But what I was really trying to get when I was talking to him about it is, what is the proper direction to go? Because I was honestly unsure, as I had something in my head, in my mind about it, and I didn't really know if that was the right idea. And so he was helping me kind of move in that direction. So again, many thanks to him, and I think I'm on the right track now. But there's more work to do there in that logo. What you just saw was a window in Adobe Illustrator. And I love doing these vector graphics because the vector graphics, you can scale to any size. If you do them right, they generally will look very clean and very polished and very nice and very modern. And they're extremely flexible, and so I would like to keep going that direction. However, that being said, we have to ask a lot of questions around what is actually going to work in the visual style of the UI. You may also notice that from last time, I've kind of recolored these buttons a bit. They highlight in different colors now, and I'm totally unhappy with them. We got to change these. I'm going to get to that. There's also this X up here, and the X, this is fine. And what will happen with this is if I click this, we're going to completely lose the view. We keep the top bar there, but we completely lose the view of the UI itself. And that is because this normal business and people panel, this is not the primary UI. The whole idea of the game is we want to get a top-down view of the town so that we can manage the town, and we can click on different buildings and manage businesses and things like that. And in fact, at one point, I just barely showed there's like this little isometric house-looking thing here. It looks kind of like a Monopoly house piece in the physical board game, but maybe colored a very wooden brown color. And this is just something to act as kind of a placeholder. And I think it makes sense that over time we'll start adding a lot more graphical elements here into the UI so that There's just more of a feel here for people to look at. Having said that, there's a number of things I need to get done today, and you're going to be here with me along for the ride. One of those things is based on where we left off last time. I think we want to get some previous buttons that are functional inside of here. I also want to point out, if I add an additional person, which I'm capable of doing just for testing purposes, you can see that the people number went from 3 to 4. And then I add another business, which is a restaurant. Now what I can do is I can move through, and you can see that there is a restaurant inside of here. Now all the business names default to farm. I'm going to fix that too. We may even get to that today. I'm not sure. Because the idea is I want the player to be able to name the business. But so we have a restaurant. You can see the income per turn is 8. It has no owner. It has no workers. Okay. And so another thing that has to be done is the number of workers has to reflect what the income is. So actually, in this case, when we've just added a restaurant and it has no workers because we haven't assigned anyone to it, the income per turn should be 0. Now if I go next, aha. Okay, so now I have a citizen that is unemployed. They've been brought over to the town, but they've not been assigned a business. And hopefully, I think I did this last time. If I click match, now it syncs this person up and assigns them to this business. And so now you can see that the name over here for the business owner, person 373054336, matches the same thing over here to the right, person 373054336. Now again, these are random numbers, and I've talked about this before, but the random numbers are not the real names of the people. I'm going to get rid of that. But now we can see that the number of workers has moved from 0 to 1, and it's all good. We've got this nice little thing here where we're able to match some new person to a business. But there's so much more to do. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that in Unity. I'm going to go into Sublime here, and we've got all kinds of stuff to get done. So I'm going to start with updating the income per turn for the business so that if there's no workers, then we've really got to shut down that income. It's got to go to 0. So, because if you have a business with no employees, then it's not doing anything. It's not generating anything. That doesn't make any sense. And there is no robots in Kalling Kingdom, right? So there's no automation of the business making money for you. When we say fantasy-based, most people think of almost like a medieval kind of thing. And that is somewhat of what I'm kind of going for here with Kalling Kingdom. Okay, so get maximum number of workers, get income per turn. So the income per turn is going to become more complex. So the first thing we can do, actually, is we can just say we can change all of this to else if, because only one of these is ever going to be true, and they can't simultaneously be true. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to also just say, actually, I'm going to add something to the end. That'll make more sense. Else if. So actually, I'm going to put all of this inside of a conditional. That's what I'm going to do. So up here, I'm going to say if this dot number of workers is greater than 0. Else this dot income per turn is 0. I think that'll work. And you notice, even though this is C#, I don't have any of those ugly brackets. I hate putting brackets when they're just not necessary. I like leaving those line breaks in there, though, because that makes it a little more readable, a little nicer. Okay, so let's see if I broke anything. Gosh, and yesterday I was so exhausted trying to to move things along. I'm pretty happy with the work I got. I've been working on the logo, and I'm pretty happy with what I got done on it. But man, I was kind of exhausted. See a couple people in chat. How's everyone doing? Okay, so I'm going to hit play. And now what should happen, as long as I've written the UI code properly, is if I add a restaurant, then we should see, it says income return 5. Okay, so that's not right. I bet I have something defaulting to a different number. And you know what? In fact, I do. I'm going to have it default to 0. That makes a lot more sense. You don't have any income until you have workers, so we're going to default it to 0. Maybe that'll fix it. I think that'll fix it. Nope. Now everything generates 0 income. Okay. That's the game, really. You just... no one generates anything, and the player always loses. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so... number of workers is greater than 0. Get income per turn. Well, let me call the method get income per turn on initialization. I think I've had issues doing that before. Yeah, no, it doesn't like that. You can't do that because it's like an initialization problem, so it's not going to let me do that. Okay. But what I could do is I could call it inside of the constructor. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to have that be the way that we get this done. This income per turn is get income per turn. I think I can do this. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't let me call the method in the constructor. It should let me do that because then we have something to work with. Cannot implicitly convert type void to int. Okay, yeah, so I'll have it return get income per turn. I'll have it return an int. I'll come way down here to the end, and I'll just say return this dot income per turn. Should fix it. Very good. Still goes to 0. Well, okay. I don't get it. Why? Why does it go to 0? Number of workers. Oh, we probably got to initialize the workers too. Add worker. Number of workers goes to 1. Means we have to reevaluate the income. Shouldn't be too much overhead with just calling that. I think it should be fine. Number of workers. So every time you add the worker, it has to reevaluate the income. That makes sense. It should work. Did I save? Okay. There we go. Okay. So let me add a person, add a restaurant. Next, next, next. Next, next, next. Income per turn 0. Say match. Beautiful. It works. Very nice. Okay. Well, that was easy. There's only like 55,000 more things to get done, but that's one down. Okay. That's probably not even an exaggeration, by the way. The amount of work game development is just so ridiculous. Okay. So that's good. That's very good. Ooh, and another thing I can test. Oh, but I haven't done this. I haven't done this. So I got to go back to the game design doc because I got to figure out, like, I got to get this modifier in basically where, when you add additional workers, how does that manipulate the income, right, of the business? So we got to get that in there, and I have some of those values already set up, but I got to get into Bitbucket, and I'm going to pull up Firefox so you can see. Okay, just going to go to the design document. By the way, it is just so important that you have a game design document. I just can't stress it enough. So many people just don't do that, and it's such a mistake to not have a design doc, because if you don't, then what will happen over time, and you won't even realize it's happening, is that you'll just wander off into outer space. You'll expand your scope. All kinds of awful things will happen. And before you know it, you'll look up a year and a half from now and your game still isn't finished, and it should have been done in 6 months. So you always have to have a plan. Okay, so what I got to do is I got to apply this multiplier per worker. So I gotta get that set up. And I'm thinking that that can be done right here in get income per turn. So maybe a better way to do this would be if the number of workers is equal to 1. No, we're going to stick with greater than 0 because I think it's just easier to just apply the multiplier. So in this case, it would be 5 plus, and then we're going to do income per turn 5. Might help if I break this up, like int, this is a farm income, and then I might be able to say like farm income plus farm income times the number of workers times, and then the farm multiplier is 0.5. But this is always a an int, and so we're multiplying by a float value, which means that hopefully we're still going to end up with an int at the end. I wonder if it'll let me do that. I don't remember if C# has some handling. No, it's not going to let me do that. Cannot implicitly convert type float to int. So I'm going to see if I can cast it, maybe. Cast this whole thing into an int and see if that works. Nope, that doesn't work. There's probably a way to do this. I might have to, let me see if I can cast the float and see if that works. See, these days in some, oh yeah, wow, that did work. These days in some languages, you can do that. You can typecast into just ahead of the number without having to do any kind of weird conversion or anything like that, and the language features just support it. Okay. So now, what do I expect? Let's see, add a person, add a restaurant, next. So let me add a few more people. I'll say match. So, oh, this is on, I need to match to a farm. So let me do that. Go to farm, next. match. So if it's multiplied by half, what does that mean? Does that mean that anything will happen? Oh, okay, number of workers 3. No, it doesn't quite work out like that. And we can't match because we're at the maximum. I'm probably doing this math wrong. So that'd be 5 times the number of workers times 0.5. So it'd be 5 plus. So if you have 3 workers, then that would be 5 times 3, which is 15, and then cut in half, which is 7. Well, 7 if you round down, otherwise it's 8 as an integer. And so for the purposes of argument, it'd be like income should be 13 maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let me do some debugging. I'm going to have to skip past a few of the calls to get income per turn. Okay. And I still haven't solved the issue of not being able to show Visual Studio Code, because when I do the debugging, I'm always inside of Visual Studio Code, and you can't really see that. So. Okay, so farm income 5, number of workers 2, so that would go to 10. But then what happens with the int being cast against the 0.5 float? What happens there? Like, what does it say now? It still says the income per turn is 5. So the UI is displaying the correct number. I'm going to have to do something different with this float. Maybe I can't just cast it. I probably can't. That's probably not going to work. Yeah, because maybe when I cast it, it's just going to like 0, right? And then like the numbers multiply, and then you're just saying 5 plus 0 at the end of the formula. That would make sense. And so that's a big problem. I don't think I'm doing that right, because you're not gonna get a huge multiplier like that. I don't think that doesn't make you. I got to take the farm income out. Since it would be 5 plus, and then but then that gets me thinking, is that how the multiplier should work? Okay. Okay, so one thing I think I need to do is I need to convert all these. I need these to be floats. So what I really got to do is I got to say float 5f, And then we're going to do float multiplication, and then we're going to convert it to an int. I think that's the only way to do this that makes sense. So then I can say float applied, I'll just say float, yeah, applied income multiplier would be farm income plus maybe convert the number of workers to a float. If I can just do it through typecasting, times 0.5 float. And I'll just say int applied income. And this will be typecast int applied income multiplier. I think that'll work. And this is just applied income. And if that does work, that's a good candidate for like its own function with its own inputs that I just call for each category with a different input. Okay. Aha. Well, we went from 5 to 6. But we don't want there to be zero benefit to maxing out your workers on farms. So maybe I ought to adjust the number. Let me try changing it to 0.7 and see if that just makes more sense. Yep. Haha. I like it. So now you can get a max income per turn of 7 from your farms by adding additional workers. Up to the maximum of 3 workers. That's fantastic. Okay, so let me put that into its own function. Oops. There we go. Trying to say income. There we are. I'm going to do the same thing for the other categories. Actually, I can do this on one line. I can just say 5F, 5F, and still no brackets. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful and clean. I love it. Get applied income 8F. Get applied income 16F. Ooh, but I need different multipliers. That's okay. I'm going to handle that. We're gonna kind of abstract that away. So, but yeah, I need different multipliers for different kinds of businesses. Get applied income 3F. Get applied income 7F. Actually, I can just pass it in. I'll just pass it in. So I'll make that a multiplier. Multiplier. So this will be times multiplier. There we go. And we said for farms that was 0.7F. Oops. 0.7F. I wonder if it would be interesting at all to have, in some cases, zero benefit to adding additional workers. I wonder how the player would respond to that. How many of them would notice? How many of them would say, "Ah, but I'm finding a place for this person," you know, that type of thing. It's a very interesting question to me. Okay. All right, so let me get these other multipliers applied. So we got restaurant. Restaurant is 0.2. Yikes. I don't know how that's going to work. That might not work that well. 0.2. Weapons is 0.1. And as you can imagine, I might... ooh, this one's just double. You get 2 people at the stable, you get double. Okay, so... Hotel's 0.2 as well. Oops. Now, again, from the design doc, you know, these are very different numbers. In fact, I'm going to go into the design document and update this because I already have new numbers I need to apply. Multiplier. Farm needs to go to 0.7 because I just changed that. There we go. So I'll commit that here in a little bit. What's up, Nolwins and Henry? I think it's Henry. Henbush. Yes, will this game include ray tracing? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Ray tracing is great, though. Okay. Okay, so now I need some other keys to go test out at adding these businesses. Let's see if this even works for the other types. Get input, get key up, key code dot. I'm going to do S for stable. Let's just assign every key on the keyboard a ridiculous function to do. Business stable, create business stable, own businesses, add stable. Why did I do it that way? That doesn't make sense. I'm not going to do it that way. Forget about this. Forget about the 2 lines. We're going to fix this right now. Owned businesses, add, create business, stable. There it is. 1 line, no brackets. Get rid of that. Oh, is the type weapon? It's weapons. Weapons. Hotel. Have I played ray traced Minecraft? No, I haven't, but I've seen it, and yeah, it's super amazing. Uh, yeah, it's incredible. It makes Minecraft look so absurdly beautiful. And it makes you wonder too, like, if they would have done that from the beginning, would it have been different? Like, would people have viewed that game differently? You know what I mean? Because I feel like part of Minecraft's appeal is sort of the bad graphics in a way. I mean, I don't know. It's strange to say that, but it's like, you know, you feel, I guess you feel like you're kind of working with like Lego blocks a little more when the graphics are not quite there. And yeah, you say the 90s graphics is a big part of it. Yeah, absolutely. And so the bizarre thing is I have to wonder, like, if they would have done ray tracing or something similar in the beginning, as beautiful as it looks, would the game still have made over $1 billion? It's an interesting question. But and yes, it does help that it's able to run on almost any machine. Absolutely. Okay, so well, I'm missing a type here. Hotel, stable, weapons, restaurant. Farm. Farm? Farm. Farm. Yes. I'm surprised I don't already have a key for farm. Okay, so I'll put that on F. It'll be an amazing feat for me to just remember all of these hotkeys. Okay. Okay, so we know, we know farm goes up to 7. So let me add a restaurant. Restaurant, match, so that goes to 8. Next, match, still at 8. Still at 8. Do I have anyone else unemployed, or do I need to add more people? Need to add more people. Still at 8. I must have a really low multiplier on that, don't I? Oh, I'm sorry, you guys can't see the screen. But yeah, restaurant is 0.2. I have 4 people on this, and the income per turn is still 8. I think I'm just going to have to tweak these multipliers, honestly. Like, I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Okay, so finally it goes to 9 once you max out the workers. Golly, talk about a high cost for a decent little return there. You say, I can't even run the ray tracing on my 1060. It wouldn't have reached anyone at all. Maybe that's true for Minecraft, but I think the 1060 can still run ray tracing if the ray tracing is, I guess, done correctly. I don't know. I thought that when Unity first started doing screen space ray tracing, for example, like, I had like a 960 and I was still able to run some ray tracing stuff. There's multiple ways to do ray tracing, you know what I mean? There's multiple ways to do just about anything. That being said, I know very little about ray tracing. I've never written a shader. I've never done anything like that. Okay. Yeah, I gotta adjust these multipliers. Let me go back to the restaurant. Restaurant. So if you have 5 workers, Let me bump that up. I'm going to bump it up to... bump it up to 0.4. Let's see how that works. There we go. I like that a lot better. So you start at 8, and then you go to 5 workers, and you can get up to 10. And so how does that compare with a maxed out farm? So if you have income per turn on the farm, you can go to 7, but with a restaurant, you can get 10. I like that a lot better. Okay. Let me see what else I can adjust. Maybe try weapons next. Oops. Oh, yeah. There we go. Match. 16 income per turn. Now, another thing that you haven't seen yet is that the cost of getting a weapons maker is going to be fairly high. So you get a high amount of income. Oh, what? Income per turn is still 16 with 2 workers. That doesn't make sense. Oh, yes, it does. Gosh, I might as well just make it 0. What if I put it on, like, 0.5? I'll do that. Yeah, that'll take you to 17. So you add an additional worker and you just get a slight bump. I'm fine with that for now. You know, balancing all this is going to be a very long process, so right now I'm just trying to get it to feel right, you know what I mean? Seven for a stable. Yeah, I like that. I like that. What else is on the list? Hotel. Did I already do hotel? I didn't do hotel yet, did I? I don't think so. Hotel. 7 per turn with 1 worker. 2 workers. 3 workers. 4 workers, no increase. .2. Swing it up to 0.8, see if that makes a good feel of the difference. Basically goes up by 1 with every worker. So max income on a hotel is 10, and then you can get 17 with a weapons maker. With a farm, you can get 7. With a stable, I can get 7. Okay. So farm, stable, hotel. I guess the problem with the stable... it's not a big problem. It's not a big problem. So the player now is actually incentivized a tiny bit to build the stable first. Before you add additional farms, you want to build the stable first. And then the restaurant. The restaurant... oops. Give me more people. Okay, so the restaurant... The restaurant goes to 10. The hotel and the restaurant both go to 10. But the hotel pays off a little faster. Oh gosh, I like it. I like those little intricacies to think about. And I also have to figure out a nice way in this UI to display that information to the player, so that if they want to think through what decisions they got to make next in their head, they have a nice way to do it through the UI. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, great. Making really good progress today, because you know the last stream, this is like some of what I actually wanted to get done in the last stream, and of course it always takes a little longer than you think it's going to take. But this is awesome. We're getting some of these modifiers in there now, and really able to start tinkering with the tests on the numbers, which is fantastic. So let me go back to the game design doc for just a minute here. So I got the multiplier per worker in here, and these have changed. So let me update that actually. What did I end up with for these? Restaurant is 0.4. Restaurant is 0.4. Weapons is 0.5. So these all these kind of just like went up, a lot of them. Hotel is 0.8. Stable is still double. Farm 0.7. Yep. Okay. Each turn, in addition to income, expenses are all supplied. Okay. Oh yeah, so I started on the expenses, and we have multipliers for each additional person. So I believe we can take care of that next. That's a good thing to knock out next. So let me I think I have an apply expenses. So for each current expenses amount, but we have to calculate the multiplier against the population, multiplier. So you can see there, additional per person, and we have some incremental increases there in expenses. those numbers don't seem like they're going to work at all. But I'll try them. I'll experiment a little bit. I'm gonna make. Where's my expense class? So let me go in here. Expense attributes. Load expense amounts. So I'm going to say load expense multipliers. This is really funny because normally when you think about game development, you don't think you're going to end up doing all of this math, but you absolutely do. Oh my goodness! I might take a short little break here. Before I do, I noticed that I didn't have my social media info there up on the screen, right up above me, up here. Look at this. Got the promo code there for the merch, and then the Twitter account, and of course the Elega Corp website. Gosh, how did I go this entire stream without having that box up there? That's so important. All right, let me knock out this function. Then I'll take a little 5-minute break. I think that'll work well. So load expense multiplier. So I need to get all the types in here. This is pretty easy to do, I think. I can throw this into another little dictionary here. And it'll be string to a float, expense type to per person multiplier. Oh gosh, that's such a long name. That's okay. I think it'll work. And then I can change all these. Okay. And we just go and get the... You know what? It's not a multiplier. I'm going to say... we're going to call it like an incrementer, because we're not exactly multiplying. We're incrementing linearly. We're not going up in some exponential sort of fashion or a multiplicative fashion. It'll make sense once you see it. So point 2 for infrastructure. Water is 0.15. Waste is 0.05, and administration is 0.01. Goodness, I don't even think that administration is gonna... I don't even think that's gonna be on the radar. I don't even think that's gonna end up being there at the end of all this. And then so let me go into here, and I'm gonna say load expense incrementer. There we go. Right at initialization time. Then what I can do, I know I said I was going to finish that function and take a break, but you know what? I'm on a roll. I got to keep going. Okay, so game manager, apply expenses, amount, and I'm going to say plus current expenses. I can put this into the expense. The amount, expense attributes, apply attributes, out this amount. And then this amount is equal to this dot amount plus this dot expense attributes dot expense type to expense increment. Am I getting that name right? My names are so crazy, right? Yeah, expense type to per person incrementer. At least it tells you what it does. I mean, it makes sense to me, but it's not the greatest variable name that has ever existed in variable names. I'll say that. Okay, and then this type out to this. I need a different variable to throw that into, I think. Float. Person increment. Yeah, and I'll say out person increment. I might have to initialize that with something. I'm going to initialize it at 0. I think that's fine. Because then it can just say +0 if there's ever anything that goes wrong there. Expense, apply attributes. But will we have to, we might have to recalculate. And so if we recalculate, that may need to be done. May need to be done periodically. In fact, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say, instead of just dot amount, I'm going to say get amount. Get amount. We're going to be back to like typecasting and all that crazy stuff. I already know, but that's okay. Because then I'm going to say apply attributes. Return this dot amount. Yeah, because this is already. I'm going to have to cast into this. So in some of these cases, because of these multiplier amounts, it's going to take a while for it to eventually go up to an entire integer. And that's fine. But we should see it eventually move up. Oh my goodness, I have all kinds of syntax errors getting returned. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, okay, so I need to use try get value. There we go. So that's one. I have more stuff going wrong here in the compilation. Oh yeah, okay. So I need to just retrieve this value if I can. Try get value. Yeah, try get value. Person increment. Okay, this dot amount. I don't need that in there. Do I? Wait a second, what happens with this? Expense attributes. Apply attributes. This doesn't make sense. What is this even supposed to do? What? Scott, what were you thinking? This is okay. That is the hilarious thing about programming, by the way. You can just like you can run with it for like a long time, and then you'll suddenly like be like, wait, none of this is coherent in the slightest. Yeah, okay, we don't need that. But the expense attributes it's still going to give us a little bit of what we need. I'm going to undo some of this. It's still going to give us a little bit of what we need because we still got to do the calculation. So I can just say, this dot expense attributes, okay, and then I can try to get the value. So yeah, so yeah, this dot expense attribute, yep, try to get value, okay. Person increment, so this amount plus person increment, cast as an int. But apply attributes really does nothing. I mean, it attempts to throw a value. Oh, well, it applies the amount. That's what it was doing. It applies the amount because it says out this amount. Okay, so that's fine. I can leave that in there. I'll leave that in there. That's fine. I'll leave that in there. And it just does that on initialization time, that's fine. Get amount, yep. Per person incrementer. But we also need the current number of people. So I'm gonna pass that in, number of people. So it'll be person increment, which we're gonna do a float calculation first. So float I'll just say yeah, amount increase is equal to cast the number of people into a float. Gosh, now I'm really questioning, like, should I have gone with these ints and stuff in the beginning? Because I don't know what the implications are going to be of swapping back and forth between these data types. This could be bad news. Bad news indeed. Okay, so yeah, number of people times person increment, and then we're going to cast that into an int, amount increase. Is everything broken still? Oh my goodness. You know what I gotta do? I gotta get my my copyright notice up here at the top of the classes. Never have a class without copyright notices. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Expense type to per person multiplier does not exist in the current context. That is the error I'm getting back from Unity. But Unity tells lies, I have to say. At least in my opinion, it does from time to time. It says it's at line 25. Expense attributes. To per person multi. Oh, I renamed the wrong thing. Okay. All right. Let's test this out. So if I advance the next turn, we go down to 1965. 1965. Okay. So 2000 minus 1965 is 35. So our current expenses are 35. Let me ramp up these people to 20 and say next. And it's still 35. Oh my goodness. Because we went from 1,965 to 1,930, which is a deduction of 35. We are now in turn 3, and our expenses haven't moved even though we're up at 20 people. That's not right. Wait, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Actually, maybe it is. Let me look at the math again, because what did we do? We didn't do, well, no, it should have gone up. Should have gone up. Military alone is 1, so it should have gone up. Okay, that's okay. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break there. And when I come back, I'm going to resolve that. And, now is a good time if you are on the edge of your seat following all of this. Take a restroom break. Grab a beverage. Grab some snacks, okay? Because I'm coming right back. And when I return, we're going to solve this problem. All right. I'll be right back. You want them to feel a tad more original whenever you're working on these things. Oh my gosh, have I had my mic muted for that long? Oh my goodness. You guys probably missed all of that. That's so sad. Well, look, I was talking about the logo, and I was basically saying, for the people that are in chat, I want to know what you think of this logo. Okay, I was looking at different examples of logos, and I was noticing that all of these different logos, they have all of these different elements in them. Things like plants, things like wood, things like swords. When you have these fantasy game logos, you're always thinking of these things. And it's like, do I have to have that in there? So once again, I kind of want to show this, right? If we go into the Zelda logo, there's multiple different ways that we could look at it. So let me switch to the web browser. Okay. So you could look at this a few different ways. Like, you can look at just the typography, and you can see that there's these different elements coming off of the letters, okay? I don't even know if you would call these serifs. But, you know, the typical example, you have a sword and a shield going on. And Zelda is kind of a fantasy adventure game, right? Breath of the Wild, you have a sword going through the logo. Okay. Okay, well, fine. Forget about Zelda. Let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at the Folktale logo. Folktale logo. Here it is. You have multiple things that I just mentioned. You have the you have the wood, you have plants. Okay. Breath of the Wild has that little silent princess flower, but you have plants going on. You have a sword over here. All right. And the logo text is like this like kind of like stone look going on. It's very interesting. Anyway, gosh. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it there. I had that was kind of a disaster with me having the mic muted for so long. I apologize for that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it there. That's a good stopping point. Obviously, I must be kind of exhausted if I'm not even managing the sound on this thing properly. Well, thank you for joining me. Once again, elegacorp.com has everything you need. That is always, always, always the case. People always ask me, where do I find these t-shirts? Where do I find the live stream schedule? How do I know the latest progress that's happening on your game? The answer is always elegacorp.com. That's always where you go. That's always where you look. Okay? But anyway, I'm on Twitter at Scott Lee and at ElegaCorp. Feel free to reach out on Twitter to either one of those handles to let me know what your thoughts are on this rough draft of the logo. I still really, really want to hear from you on that because I need to know your thoughts here. I need to know what you think needs to be added. What gives you a better idea of what kind of game this is? All right. So thanks so much. I will talk to you soon.